every round he takes Freitas here.
Well, he will be confident, but it's a different type of fighter he's in with. Obviously, a big power puncher, Freitas. And I think he's a little wary about that power, and that's just stopping him for getting into that rhythm. Freitas also missing quite a lot now.
Wonder whether there'll be any demons in Acelino Freitas' mind if the going does get tough again. Certainly the power was harder at super featherweight than at lightweight as Raheem closes the distance.
Just starting to measure the range that bit better. Raheem just caught Freitas with a couple of classy shots.
He's taken time to ease into this. A lot of time, Raheem. Good defensive work. A bit more haphazard from Freitas.
Yes, he looks for that right hand, lands, takes it fine. Raheem just looking to have the centre of the ring and looking more in control now.
Not panicking, Freitas, but not as in control as maybe he'd like to be. Serious look on the face of Acelino Freitas. 5 rounds to go. This is the 174th of Freitas' long career and the 158th of Zahir Raheem. Let's welcome up to this sort of class for the Philadelphian, now living in Vegas. And in the last couple of rounds, Glenn, hasn't he just started to move forward here?
Well, he looks as if he's just starting to find Freitas out a little bit, just puzzle through the style. But still, for me, very, very close. I've got a level at this point. All to fight for. Nobody has ever really dominated at any stage.
Yep, these rounds very, very hard to score. A jerky world title fight. That's what it's been. Who can hit the ascendancy as we move down the stretch?
Go behind the head. Go behind the head.
That jab from Raheem. Just a bit sprightlier in his appearance, Zahir Raheem now.
But I think the difference is Freitas early on was leading off. He was getting to the punches first and getting the centering. Now it looks to be Raheem who's trying to lead with that jab and more accurate with that punch.
Never take that 84% knockout power out of Freitas' arsenal. One punch can change things. When he had that terrific war with Jorge Barrios, he picked himself up off the canvas a couple of times and stopped Barrios in the final round. So you never know with Freitas, and that's why we love watching him. Touch of desperation at times, though, for the Brazilian.
A little bit. I think he's starting to get frustrated because he gets hit with shots like that. Single punches, but punches nevertheless, and punches that just take your momentum away. And Raheem growing in confidence as Freitas just looking frustrated.
Another good combination went in there from Raheem. Freitas not giving off happy vibes. Struggling. Look at that. So out of range. This middle part of the fight kind of swung Zahir Raheem's way. There's Ulysses Pereira, who's assisted Oscar Suarez for a long time. Things much cooler in that corner. Softly spoken Don House. Doesn't seem that concerned at the moment. With the white trunks of Zahir Raheem, who's won 27 of his 28. 39th fight for Acelino Freitas. Is he not quite what he once was? And now, you, on the unofficial card, have got Raheem edging ahead.
Yes, just that the tide has turned very slightly. The action has never been free-flowing throughout this fight, and it has been difficult to score the pinching points where they can. And Raheem just starting to be that much busier as Freitas just missing more and more.
I mean, you couldn't really argue either way of what the judges are seeing at the moment. It's got to be close.
Yes, again, it's a right hand, a single shot from Raheem that just knocks the head back of Freitas, and then he tries to work the body, and I think that's a sign of frustration because he can't land with those punches.
Again, he looked down at Oscar Suarez, shook his head, Freitas. And Raheem just on his toes, trying to keep his boxing together. I don't remember Freitas missing so much in a fight.
But remember, Raheem is very, very talented. He's never really lived up to that potential when he was at the Olympics, and he looked to have a great career in front of him. And it's took a long time for him to get into the mainstream.
Yeah, he missed out in Atlanta in the bantamweight division, surprisingly stopped in the first round of his second bout there. Showed a good chin as a professional. And especially here. That's better from Freitas. You'd see 1 or 2 shots is all it needs from the Brazilian. That's the sort of equalizer he possesses.
And he looks to hang on. He certainly respects the power of Freitas. Raheem trying to do his work outside, but just looking a little disorganized now.
Needed that shot, Freitas.
With a heavy right hand from Freitas in close.
Well, they turn each other, shaking heads. Style clash here in Foxwoods. That's the cut eye from the first round. Not a problem. If it does, remember, it goes to the cards.
But listen, you overstepping that right hand.
Difficult one to read. Hasn't quite lived up to the fireworks we may have thought, but it's interesting.
Well, I think Raheem was never really going to bring the fireworks. He's a cagey boxer, and I think if he'd elected to stand and make this fight exciting, he'd have been knocked out by now. He's done it a sensible way. He's nullified the skills of Freitas, and so far he's still in there, and still in there with a big chance.
Yep, the WBO title vacant, up for grabs. Who wants it more? 9 minutes to go. Steve Smoger calls them together. He's worked hard, he's had to pick them up, both of them off the canvas, but no knockdowns. Wrestle downs, really. Both men so eager. Raheem a year younger and the fresher of the two. But Freitas, with all the big fight experience, it's still fascinating.
It certainly is. Freitas having to lunge in to try and get any success. Raheem just confident enough to stand at range and look for his openings.
Palulu, the promoter of Acelino, Freitas, they're very close, the pair. He's been talking about mega fights with the likes of Manny Pacquiao and Marco Antonio Barrera, but he's got to make sure here it must be in the balance, this one. Another defeat at this stage of his career, Freitas. Well, don't know how much more we'd see of him.
I would have liked to have seen Freitas throw more body shots. He's went headhunting an awful lot, and I think with Raheem being quite skillful, he's missed with those shots.
Fast hands of Raheem here in the 10th round. Coming forward too.
Yes, he looks as if he's fighting to a game plan. And I think maybe, you know, he's elected not to make this, to make it messy, to make it a fight where Freitas is going to get frustrated.
Glenn, do you think that Raheem has built more from that Morales win than Freitas has built back since Corrales?
Well, Freitas had such a great career before that, and I think that loss was a devastating loss. Will have took an awful lot out of him, and you know, looked like he might even retire after that. But where everything's been going well for Raheem, and he's coming off the best win of his career, so on recent form, more confidence lies with Zahir Raheem.
1 or 2 boos here at ringside. They've put everything into it, the pair. Just hasn't quite gelled into that classic sort of matchup that it was on paper, but there is still a couple of rounds, and vital ones, I'm sure they are.
I don't think Raheem will worry about the boos.
Now he's just trying to get the job done. There's the famous smile at last from Freitas. Will he be smiling after it? Right. Just hasn't changed his expression at all throughout. Strange. Brazilian fight fans on their feet. 2 rounds to go, and it could all come down to this. The 3 judges at ringside. Who knows how they're assessing this, how they have worked out the better punches landed in this messy, difficult fight.
Well, I think Raheem will be happy if he can win this ugly, as they say. Never been an exciting, free-flowing fight, but takes a good right hand there, but he stood up to Freitas' punch as well.
In November, he'll be coming up to 10 years in the business, Zahir Raheem. What a success this will be if he can become a world champion.
Well, he still needs to work, Raheem. It's Freitas who's getting off slightly more shots in this round. A little bit of bounce returning to the legs of Freitas. He needs some snap in his punches, though.
So many of these have been seesaw rounds. You can see it either way. But Freitas probably got the better of the first few. Raheem, the middle session. So it is all important now. And Freitas, I think, senses that.
Well, he's looking for a bigger finish. He lands again with Another right hand, Freitas.
Eye-catching punches, probably more from Freitas. Actually, quality shots in combinations from Raheem.
But neither one at any point has really took control of this fight. It's ebbed and flowed. One has had success, then the other, but never big success. Single shots have landed time and time again, but neither one has really got a combination or trapped the other one on the ropes for a long period of time.
Has had problems with boxers in the past. Freitas has been that bit slicker, but he's starting to close down the range again. Put the pressure back on Raheem. Best round for a while for Acelino Freitas.
Yes, Raheem has just fallen asleep a little bit in this round, and that has done him no good at all.
Tired walk back to his corner. Plenty put in that 11th from Freitas. Doesn't want to sit down.
Well, you can see this guy.
It's been a bit lackluster in that corner, hasn't it, from Raheem? I mean, he's got to really go for this.
He really does, and I'm not sure if he realises how close it is. He's really got a big last round.
Final round. The WBO Lightweight title, is vacant at the moment. Whose property will it be? Could even remain vacant if they give it a draw. Judges, we'll remind you, Glenn Feldman, Steve Weisfeld and Clark Sarmentino. And you have it dead level. Again, they come together.
And this is the sort of fight that judges can vary wildly with, because one person can like something about a certain fighter and just go with that. And it's been a very difficult fight to score, where neither one has really been on top, and it's what you like about what each one of them's doing that is going to sway you their way.
I think that's the point, Glenn, that neither has really taken total control at any time. All of these rounds have been close. And we get it from time to time. The expectation on paper, two world-class fighters in the ring, and sometimes it just doesn't work properly.
Even in this round, very, very difficult to split them. Neither one having that much success. The missing with punches, the holding, the wrestling, but there's not much going on in there. Very difficult to see the successful punches. Freitas misses again wildly.
And again, left hook, right hooks. He's an old warrior. He'll know how, or think he'll know how to impress the judges. He'll come on strong in the last minute. Been a sitting target, Raheem. Kept moving. Has he done quite enough to become a world champion? If he doesn't get it, he'll be kicking himself tomorrow.
Well, it's coming to the closing stages of this one, and I must say that I just can't pick them apart. Neither one that much success, and a very even last round. Could well be a draw.
They finally go for it. Bit of toe-to-toe. Best action of the fight. Freitas raises his arms aloft, so does Raheem, who has got that tricky fight. Big smiles from Freitas. You've got it dead level, and who'd be a judge tonight?
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to be. There was very little in it. They're celebrating in Freitas' corner. They think they've done enough. He started the better, but for me, he missed an awful lot. Raheem come back into it, and neither one, I could say, really stamped their authority on a fight and deserved to come out of that a confident winner.
Freitas, who's fought here before, maybe seen as the home fighter, but the crown goes back on King Zahir Raheem. He believes he's got it. Acelino Freitas talking about his baby back home, probably to his mother. Often does that after a fight. Family man. This is going to be extremely interesting.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the main event of the evening, we go to the judges' scorecards. Judge Clark San Martino scores the bout 115 to 113. He sees it for Raheem. Judge Steve Weisfeld scores the bout 115 to 113. He sees it for Freitas. Your third and final judge, Glenn Feldman, scores the bout 116 to 112 for the winner by split decision. And now, four-time world champion and new WBO Lightweight world champion, Acelino Freitas.
Tears of joy from the ever-emotional Acelino Freitas, who regains his world title on a split decision. And Glenn, that is hardly surprising.
Well, they did differ in their scorecards. One for Raheem, one for, and then two for Freitas. In the end, Freitas, he gets the win, but it wasn't a very satisfactory fight. But I'm not sure he'll care. He's the champion again.
Zahir Raheem with his head down. The celebrations in Brazil will be enormous, but it wasn't a classic, and it was ever so close. And the debate, the controversy about who wins will go on, I'm sure.
When you heard the first scorecard read and it was for him, what went through your mind?
Sem querer nocautear, já bem.
It was crazy. It was chaos. I don't know what the judges was looking at. The last judges had the right scoring card. We plan to, run him like a train, but you know what? With Zahir Raheem, a fighter like him, he's a little uncomfortable, but of course, he was getting ready for Acelino Freitas too. So usually the fights don't go as you plan. The jab and try to keep my distance. That's what gave me the victory.
A fourth world title, the WBO World Lightweight Champion once more, beating Zahir Raheem by split decision. And maybe it wasn't his greatest night, Johnny, but at this stage, was it all about regaining that title?
I think tonight it was about battle of wills. That was his 14th world title fight, and he tasted that kind of success. So for him, that's what he needed to do.
It was a vacant crown, Nicky. Over the piece, did Freitas look like he tried to do more to make it his again?
Yeah, I think out of the two of them, he was the one that really wanted it. He was going forward. He was the one working harder than his opponent, and I think, yeah, he deserved it on my cards.
Maybe not the classic. It was messy, especially early on, wasn't it? It
was messy. I think we had Raheem, who was very mindful of the power of Freitas. He knew what he was up against, and also mindful of the...
Is that why he claimed him right from the off?
Exactly. Straight away, jumped in, clung on, and banged the heads. I don't think it was intentional, totally accidental, and no one to blame there, actually.
But from that point, was it Freitas, by and large, in the early rounds, trying to do the lead?
That's right. Freitas showed his power. He had confidence in his power, and when he was throwing the shots, Raheem felt them. Raheem boxed well within himself for the first 6 rounds, and in my opinion, he lost. Freitas threw everything in every shot. That's why, even if he missed, he put himself off balance.
But he is a different fighter, Johnny, to the to that gung-ho knockout artist of a few years ago, isn't he? And we saw this.
Now he's winging in the shots. He's no longer just snapping the shots that he's throwing. He's winging the shots in, and that's when he's throwing himself off balance. He knows he can punch. He knows he can punch hard, but he's just not as tidy and as concussive.
He was also
when he's
up
taking
against
people
a
out.
very, very good and sharp boxing Raheem, and therefore he was being put off balance. You know, but Raheem also, I think, went into the fight knowing how vulnerable Freitas could be. Therefore, he was jumping in the early rounds, trying to land the big shot and avoid the punches too.
I think he only did it in the first round, and then he felt a shot from Freitas, and then from round 2 to round 7, he boxed well. He kept grabbing when he got in close.
But you know, he's coming off a career high. The win over Morales sets him on this train to a world title fight. Yeah. It took him an awfully long time before he showed any of that. In the second half of the fight, then he did.
I don't know what the corner were telling him, but they must have been saying, listen, you're losing this, you've got to start working here. And to be fair, he did.
And he looked so much more effective.
And rougher, he really started throwing Freitas about here, and we see a bit of meanness.
That was frustration. Raheem has always boxed well within himself and won fights. He boxed Morales, past it Morales, and beat him.
This was much more like it here, though, wasn't it?
Examples of what we saw against Morales, and sharp counter punching, but also a bit of power there too. And he certainly took the middle rounds on my card. At the end of the fight was very, very close, and some of the rounds could have gone either way, and the judges' scorecards reflected that.
The turning point for me with Raheem was when he landed an excellent right hand in the 7th round, and then he started to feel confidence. He grew in confidence in the way he was fighting Freitas.
Maybe there was another turning point. I don't know if you spotted it. Before the 11th round, Freitas smiling in his corner, as if to say, this is where I'll get it done for you, don't worry. And did you think, Nicky, in the 11th round, it was that decisive moment?
Again, I didn't think the last 2 rounds were decisive, no, certainly weren't, but he certainly was working the harder of the two.
He reimposed himself.
Yeah, he wanted it, he was the one, at the end of the fight, he was the one thought he had it.
So Freitas wins. It was a split decision, but what is not in doubt, surely, on the cards at least, is that the 11th round did clinch it for him. He had lost the previous 2 on all cards and went on to lose the 12th on 2 of the cards. He gets it done, though. Is his career now on the up again, Johnny?
He's got a good chance of getting in there with getting a rematch at least. He's number five in the rating, so why not? He's everything to fight for. He's tasted success.
Before that fight, he'd only had 1 round in 18 months, so he was bound to be a little bit rusty. He's going to get better than that, but there's some very, very good guys at the top of that lightweight.
You're so right, including the #1 and still WBC title holder Diego Corrales. Yeah, they'd love that.
At lightweight, I think he is unbeatable at the moment. He's got that return with Castillo coming up, and that's going to be a fantastic
fight. Remember, Freitas is a hero back home, so this will be a cracking fight.
Oh, yeah.
Las Vegas, and in the ring already, Joan Guzman, one-time super bantamweight world champion, of course.
Ladies
They're all set to go. Let's get back
there. MGM Grand, Golden Boy Promotions, and Don King Productions, in association with Bacardi and Ringside Promotions by Saquon, present this bout. At ringside, your 3 judges scoring will be Bill Graham, Robert Hoyle, and Jerry Roth. At the bell, the man in charge of the action inside the ring, referee Kenny Bayless. And now from the MGM Grand of Las Vegas, 10 rounds of boxing. This is in the junior lightweight division. Fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white with red, official weight 130 pounds. His professional record, 51 victories, including 35 knockouts, 12 defeats, and 2 draws. From Guadalajara, Mexico, here is Javier El Chatito Jauregi. His opponent across the ring, fighting out of the red corner, wearing white with red, white, and blue, official weight 132.5 pounds. A perfect professional record, 24 bouts, 24 victories, including 17 knockouts. Originally from Santo Domingo in La República de Dominica, now fighting out of Brooklyn, New York, the undefeated Juan Saquon Warrior Guzman.
This is a good fight, but there's been controversy in the build-up to it over the weights. And I'll give you tonight's weights in just a moment after the referee Kenny Bayless has given his final instructions. Guzman, you might remember, was due to fight Scotland's Scott Harrison for the world featherweight title in 2 weeks' time.
I want to caution you, keep the fight clean at all times, protect yourself at all times, and what I say you must obey. Good luck, touch gloves, buena suerte.
And if you want one of the reasons why he isn't fighting Scott Harrison, one might be that he could never have made 9 stone. He was supposed to be 9 stone 4 for this, didn't bother with that, hit the scales at 9.6½, Guzman, and tonight, listen to this, he's weighing 10 stone 8, 9 pounds more than the very experienced Javier Jauregui, who's a very decent veteran Mexican fighter who has been fighting since he was 14 years old. It's his 66th fight tonight. Jauregui, the former IBF lightweight champion. Briefly, Guzman, who can be pretty explosive when he does get to the ring, which isn't that often, is unloading straight away here. He's got fast hands and an almost Tyson-esque type of quality about him at times. Guzman, who comes from the Dominican Republic, though now based in Brooklyn, New York.
You know, Jauregui's a little fighter who developed into a good fighter as the years went by. He's 32 years old, but he's been a pro boxer for more than half of his life. But at this stage, 60-odd fights, I just wonder how much does he have left.
He has won 4 of his last 5, though, Jim. Jauregui, he's one of those fighters who's never out of the gym, you sense, and always gives a pretty good account of himself. Guzman will want to make a statement here. He does have fast hands. He's unbeaten in 24 fights, but his career's gone on 9 years for those 24 fights. All kinds of promotional and contract problems, fights falling through, and the rest of it. Does seem to be a somewhat chaotic existence he's had in boxing.
Yeah, and a couple of times he's had trouble with the scales, didn't make it for one of his world title defences, claimed that he didn't know his title was on the line. And when he failed to make the weight yesterday, he didn't bother trying to take any weight off, so he's paid a forfeit. So maybe that'll put him in a bad mood for this one.
Yes, he's had to fork out a bit of money, and quite right too as well, because Jauregui had to go through it and make the 9 stone 4. So why didn't Guzman bother? The red waistband on the trunks, by the way, for Jauregui, who is a pressure fighter, resilient type as well. He's won 51 of 65 in his career so far.
You can see the different quality in the punches coming back from Guzman. Jauregui's trying to generate the work rate, keep it going, try to pester and pressurise. But you can see when Guzman lets them go, far higher quality.
Has this languid style, doesn't he, Guzman, with his hands dangling down by his waist, quite open. Fast hands, bags of confidence. He looked $1 million when we saw him at Cardiff Castle on a Joe Calzaghe bill 4 years ago, when he blew away Fabio Olivar in 3 rounds to win the WBO Super Bantamweight title. He's not going to see Super Bantamweight again, I can tell you that. He's won the first round here, and quite impressively too. Welcome back here, and you can see Guzman with his back to the ropes, these fast hooks he likes to wing in with all the time. Good shots, Jim, aren't they?
Yeah, you can see the difference in quality all the way through the opening round there.